Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to have another metal legend here with me on this Pełna Kulturka channel. Please welcome David Ellefson, the legend of Megadeth for many, many years, but now touring around the world and doing some metal stuff with the band called Dieth. Hello, David.
Hi, how are you, Everton?
I'm great. It's great to finally have you here, but how are you, man? How is the tour? Because you played some first shows with Dieth recently.
Right.
In Europe. There were some festivals, the headline shows in Poland, and some support shows with Testament. And how is the reaction of the crowd for your new records?
Man, it's been awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it's been really great. And as you said, we've kind of done a little bit of all of it. You know, we've done warm-up shows, headline shows, support, direct support, acoustic festival. You know, in the last 2 weeks, we've literally done everything, which has really, really been great. So I've got a little bit of time now. We're doing some more media, of course, and that. But what's nice is now that we're here and the band is launched and the record is out, our summer's starting to fill up really nice with a lot of shows, especially now heading into August and September. Our calendar is getting quite full, which is, I think that's the best sign, is that, yay, you're good. We want you to play for us.
Yeah, of course. Best show so far on the tour?
You know, look, every one of them's been cool. I mean, look, obviously playing Grass Pop is terrific. You know, it's a great festival. You know, it's funny. I was looking at the posters there that they have all around. And I think Megadeth, we might have played the very first one back in 1997. Okay. I think we headlined, the very first one. And of course, we played there many times over the years. And the last time I played there, I think was 2016, either 16 or 18, I forgot. But, you know, so it was great to be back there now, of course, with a new band, a new adventure, and also some new fans, you know, so a new journey for all of us.
All right. So David, please tell me, how do you feel about the fact that you actually, I would say, start your career from the beginning now? I mean, you play the shows in the clubs with, instead of big arenas, with Megadeth. Also, the Megadeth was well-known product, I would say, on the market, and Dieth isn't yet. How do you feel about starting again? Are you happy about that, or maybe quite the opposite?
No, I'm happy about it. Hey, look, I still make my money from Megadeth. It's good. I want Megadeth to be successful. You know, it's what affords me the luxury to come out and start a new band. I mean, look, I went to Hollywood and helped start Megadeth, right? And so I've done all of it from the beginning. I know the road well. You know, but just because Megadeth is a big band now, I mean, look, I helped make it a big band, right? And when I came back to it in 2010, I helped make it even bigger as we went into Rest in Peace. We did the Big Four. Yeah. So, you know, I don't have, you know, hard feelings about it. In fact, to be honest with you, sometimes, you know, to spend your whole life in the same musical setting it's not as exciting as people might think it is, right? Because people change, their needs change, their wants, their desires, and bands are set up in a way where, you know, the sort of the creative channels of it are sort of designed from the beginning. And while I got to have my participations in it, you know, it was not set up that it was going to be my, you know, 100% creative input or output, you know. So to be honest with you, you know, to have a new look, there's a reason everything ended with me and Megadeth, right? It's not a bad thing. It's okay. And you know, I think life is about being adaptable. You know, it's not about being the smartest, the richest, the most creative. It's not about any of that. It's just about being adaptable, you know, and you know, so for me to start a new band. And ironically, in Poland, you know, you ask about the shows. Gdańsk, Poland was probably one of the more exciting shows we played, because technically it's Dieth's hometown is Gdańsk, right? And so, you know, I don't mean to neglect to mention that show, especially at that venue, because it was the venue right next door to where we shot In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents music video a year ago, back in April. That really started, you know, really publicly launched the band. Yeah, no, I'm having a great time. Trust me, don't feel sorry for me. You know, I don't need sympathy. I'm happy to have some new friends and a new journey now.
Yeah, some people are calling Dieth a Polish band, you know, as your Gdańsk is your hometown.
That's okay. I'm proud of it. I never thought in a million years. I mean, look, when I was 18, I went west from Minnesota to California and we started Megadeth. And now at this age of my life, I go east to Poland and start Dieth. So, you know, why not?
Yeah, of course. So please tell me, how did it actually happen that you created this one particular lineup with Dieth? And at the beginnings, were you guys basing on the ideas that you all already had in your own notebooks? Or maybe you guys created all that stuff together after forming the whole final lineup?
Well, good question. So, look, I was invited to join Guilherme and Michal as they were writing some new songs, looking to start something new after Entombed and Decapitated. And actually, it was Martin from Destruction who brought my name up to them to contact me about playing bass. And I recorded the one song in the Hall of the Hanging Serpents. I flew to Poland. We filmed the video in Gdańsk. And it just felt right. You know, it felt good. This was not designed to be a super group. It was not designed to be three famous guys. None of that. That really doesn't matter at all. This was really about a great song. Finding that we're friends, we can get along with each other, because that's the other part about being in a band is, you know, can you fucking stand each other, you know? Because and that's kind of part of this journey this summer is you know, now we move to the next phase, right? Okay, we made a great album, some great videos, that's strong, the fans are liking it, and now let's get in the Yellow Submarine and see if we can get along, you know. And so far we're having a great time, and we seem to be able to you know, cohabitate and get along well on the road, and that's kind of the next phase of this.
All right. Yeah, some people are saying that you are some kind of a super group. But for me, when I think about it, it's just you created a new band and that's all. You know,
right.
It came natural probably. And there is a great song, I think my favorite, or one of my favorites on the To Hell and Back album. And it's a ballad, a really powerful one called Walk With Me Forever. And the lead singer in this track is David Ellefson, would you believe?
I know.
David, please tell me, how do you remember creating the song, the whole writing process, and the vocal experience itself?
Sure. Yeah. So Guilherme brought the idea of the song in. And as I just asked if I could step up to the microphone and sing some melody ideas. And in doing that, Guilherme and Michal were like, "Oh my God, you're going to sing the song, right? You're the singer." And you know, you have to be respectful in these things because, you know, when this started, Guilherme was writing all the songs, and then I started to collaborate, sending ideas over, because I wanted to see, you know, am I just playing bass for his songs, or are we going to collaborate as a group and become co-writers and collaborators? And he was very open to that. And fortunately, the material that I brought in was very compatible, you know, with what he's doing. And then so for singing, this was very unexpected. It was not planned at all that this would happen. And yet, again, you talk about this sort of post Megadeth. I mean, what a beautiful gift, to have this new journey. That it isn't just about playing bass with some new guys. It's about writing new sounds, new songs, being a vocalist now. This is a really terrific creative platform in Dieth for us, for the three of us, to really reinvent ourselves, and not just do what we did in the past, but to, for me to sing, while we're in the studio, we developed that chorus. And I think that really, it really gave the weight to the song, for sort of this emotional, sort of the emotional weight, of the tune. So, I'm super honored that they chose me to be a singer for this song,
Okay, so it's more like, one-time thing for you, or maybe you liked it and you will do more, songs as a singer in the future.
No, for sure I'll be doing more. I mean, I think the first song that I really brought in that I had a vocal idea on was Heavy as the Crown. And which is a little bit of a different sound on the record. And I think that kind of started the transition, from the band, not just being death metal, as a lot of people call it. We call it Dieth metal, not death metal, right? And, cause we're kind of making up our own sound now, which is really not easy to do as a band, right? To really kind of create your own sound. But I think we found it. So that was the first thing. And then once I sang on Walk With Me Forever, now I sing all kinds of backing vocals and sort of answer call stuff. Like in Free Us All, Mark of Cain, I do a lot, and now, Guilherme and I, we did our first acoustic performance in Amsterdam Monday night. And that was a really awesome experience, because, when you take a band and you get rid of all the amplifiers and all the volume and all of the production, and you just strip it down to just playing it on a acoustic, either a guitar, a piano, whatever, that's when you really see what you have, and Guilherme and I were so excited because, even in that setting, he sang very clean. He wasn't singing the heavy, sort of death metal style. He sang very clean. So now he's excited because he gets to be a different kind of vocalist, and he's excited that he can expand what he does now with Dieth beyond just what he had always done in the past with Entombed.
Okay, and how did you like singing this song for the first time, maybe on the stage? Was that something very stressful for you, and how did you feel after that?
That's funny you asked that, because the first, we planned to come to Poland and rehearse and then do our first shows where we sort of are in control of, these smaller little shows, right? But as fate would have it, we ended up jumping on a show with Testament over in Berlin. A few days about a week ahead of that. And so our first show was this support, opening for Wywiad and Testament, in a bigger concert setting, kind of set it up, you're on, go, and so maybe that was better because I didn't really have too much time to think about it. Of course, we were rehearsed and practiced and everything, but, to just do it. And now I've worked very closely with sort of the sound engineers and everything so that I can hear myself well, because it's a song that requires a very different emotional delivery, as opposed to, say, To Hell and Back and, Mark of Cain or something that's very heavy and driving, so this is a moment in the show that requires sort of a reset. It's kind of like, new guy, right? To sort of get on the microphone and feel and deliver a different emotion to the audience. But I'm having a lot of fun doing it. A journalist at Grass Pop, after the show, we did an interview, and he said, your delivery of your vocal it made me cry in the concert. And so I thought, okay, thing. Mission accomplished. That's a huge thing. It's huge because that's the intention, is to take it from this, mosh pit and this heavy metal brigade, to deliver it down to where even a man can cry in a heavy metal concert. So I guess that's a pretty cool gift to be able to deliver.
Yeah, and it's also a great moment on the album when this song is coming, because it's kind of resets the album. It's in the half of it, and I think it's a great place to put it in the middle.
I totally agree, and in fact, in Amsterdam, part of the show was an acoustic performance, but it was also a listening party, and we got to hear for the first time the vinyl. Like, even the band, we hadn't heard the vinyl because the record came out a week before. We were on tour, and so we got to hear our album on vinyl with just this really wonderful sound production. That's certainly enhanced by the vinyl experience. And it's funny because when you play side A and then you turn the album over, the beginning of side B is Walk With Me Forever. And I got to kind of see that myself, looking at the turntable and sort of get the, kind of grasp the impact of that myself. It's one thing to look at it on a computer screen. It's another to actually see it on the physical album as it's playing, and I'm in the room with the guys, so you're right. It really does really reset the listening experience. And then, builds up to a big crescendo at the end of the album with In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents and Severance.
All right, let's get to some Megadeth stuff now, because I've been listening to a lot of the album Euthanasia by Megadeth recently. Like a month ago, I've had a little phase for this record, and I think it's a great album. How do you remember creating this one, and maybe how do you remember all the 90s era in Megadeth, because it was probably a little bit different than the 80s?
Sure. Well, I agree with you. Sean Drover, when he and I were in the band together, he got me excited about listening to Euthanasia again. And I have fond memories of making the album, but I hadn't listened to it in many, many years. And I listened back to it, and now I listen to it. I have it on my iPhone, and sometimes if I listen to a Megadeth record, it would be probably Countdown to Extinction and Euthanasia, maybe even a little bit of Cryptic Writings, like side B of Cryptic Writings, which has some really cool songs on it. But it was, what I like about that record is we recorded it, all of us together, right? It was not individually recorded parts. We were all in the room together. We did 3 versions of every song. We picked the best version. We fixed any little parts that we needed to. If someone made a mistake or something, we'd punch it in, fix it. And then we moved on to the next song. And really in about 1 week's time, all the basic tracks were done. And what I love about it, one of my favorite Van Halen albums is Women and Children First. And they did kind of a similar thing, right? In about a week's time, they recorded all the basic tracks. And, there's a feeling that you get when you record together, or when you're really in sync like that, and I think Euthanasia has that. And I'm surprised at, how great the band was, look, by that time we'd already recorded and toured Rust in Peace. We recorded and toured Countdown. So this was our 3rd album together, after a lot of touring and a lot of road work. And it just goes to show how great that band really was. Yeah. And I know a lot of fans, they look to that. The 90s is their Megadeth, and there's a good reason, because we were a band, everybody had a role, within the band, but we were very much a band. It felt like a band. It looked like a band. We allowed ourselves to have management to guide us, and really, look, they took us to the top, man. And we really, I think the the collective creativity in that lineup, and the brotherhood was the strongest that it ever was inside of that lineup for that decade. And we survived a lot of stuff, you know. I mean, obviously, Rest in Peace came out, Countdown, you know, big stuff. But by the time Euthanasia came out, you know, Pearl Jam and Nirvana were popular. I mean, it was a very different day, you know, and there was a lot of struggles going on outside of, you know, heavy metal, you know, a lot of influences of how the world was changing, you know, music was changing. And I think during the 90s, you see Megadeth, probably Euthanasia was this pivotal point where you could see us adapting, you know, to still being Megadeth, but adapting to, you know, partly for survival during that decade.
Of course. And please tell me, David, how hard was that to break through on the 80s metal scene with Megadeth?
Well, the 80s were gone, you know, and I think, look, you know, it's funny. We wrote Rust in Peace starting in 1988. We wrote the rest of it in 1989. We recorded it in 1990. It came out in 1990. So that record is really about 18 months of a journey that you hear before the audience, before the world even heard it, right? Before it came out, it was about 18 months of our lives. You know, we went through some very dark days coming out of addictions and, you know, just different, you know, 80s lifestyle, if you will, right? Yeah. And the 90s was this reset of like, okay, it's time to, you know, grow up, like get real. Let's really commit, you know, our lives to being professionals and behave differently. And that's why I think we had such big success during those years. And, you know, but the 80s were gone. I mean, you know, I think by 1992, even by the time, you know, Countdown to Extinction was coming out, you know, it was really kind of the end of the hair metal, you know, generation. You know, of course, like I said, you know, Seattle music coming in changed. But the big influencer was MTV, right? Let's call it what it is, right? So they influenced so much around the world. And once they decided, yeah, we're done with heavy metal, we're going to play grunge music now. You know, that changed. It changed the public's opinion of music. And, you know, music is always driven by a younger generation, right? And so, you know, heavy metal guys with big hair and blowing kisses at the camera and being all pretty, like young people were no longer into that. They wanted Kurt Cobain, you know, dark, depressing, shoegazing, you know, their generation had a different song. And, you know, I think as a professional in the business, and even as a songwriter, you know, you respect that, you know, this new generation is coming and let them have their lane, you know, to write their song and tell their story. And it doesn't mean we have to go away. It doesn't mean you become a dinosaur and you become extinct. Because as we see, there's room for all of us, right? There's room for the icons and the classic rock guys, as well as the newest stuff coming in as well.
Yeah, 90s was a strange time in music. As you said, you know, grunge thing, Nirvana, hard time for Iron Maiden, I would say. But I think the Megadeth adapted to the 90s scene really well, in my opinion.
I agree.
Please tell me, how did it feel to finally win the Grammy Awards with Megadeth in 2017 after being nominated multiple times? You know, was that something special for you to finally win this? You know, probably the biggest award in the music industry.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. It was awesome. I'm not going to lie. It was friggin' awesome. Even the Grammys were happy for us. You know, I went up to the Recording Academy in Santa Monica, California, a couple months after we won. And they even said, it's about time you guys won, you know, and, you know, and look, and they even admitted, they said, look, we admit we haven't gotten the heavy metal category right. I mean, starting with Metallica and Jethro Tull, right, many years ago, right? But yet, the Grammys and the Recording Academy, they were always very inviting, to having those of us who have won to stay on the committee, to help them, kind of get the right bands in the right category. It's, there's several parts to the Grammys. One part of it is the museum downtown. One part of it is their Music Cares, which is their charitable organization to help musicians and artists in need. And then the other part is the TV show, which of course is the big one that we all know of the Recording Academy. I've gone, to get nominated is huge. I mean, that's really the hardest part. The win is just the cherry on top, quite honestly. To get nominated, I mean, think about how many heavy metal bands there are in the world, right?
Of course.
Like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, right? So the fact that they narrow it down to 4 or 5, of which you're one, right? That's just incredible, right? And of course it's because of the record labels submit. There's a process to it. But to get even chosen to be in that little stable of people is huge. So just the nomination's amazing. And then, to finally win, I think what makes it more special, and I think the Grammys totally respect this as well, is that, we didn't put out our debut album and then sweep the Grammys, right? Oh, Megadeth, right? This was album 16, right? I mean, this was, or 15 or so, whatever it was. Maybe it was album 15, Dystopia, right? I mean, this was a 35-year career, and we finally won a Grammy, right? And it's the same. I think the metal category speaks to that because Motorhead was the same thing. Iron Maiden. I remember being in categories in past years when Motorhead, Iron Maiden and other big bands, and Judas Priest, and they would naturally win. And you kind of think they should, even though you're in the category with them and you want to win. The truth of it is it's frickin' Iron Maiden. Let them have the Grammy. You know what I mean? They've even been here 8, 9, 10 years longer than us, So I think heavy metal tends to, like I say, I don't know the rhyme or the reason with the Grammys, but to finally have one. I mean, look, if I win more, great. But just to have that one, I think because of how it was won and all the years, I think that adds to the importance of it because it's not like, you're the flavor of the day on your debut album. You finally win it. And I think it shows a career's highlight worth of work, and I think that's probably what was so special to so many people around the world when we finally won the thing.
Yeah, I imagine it's could, taste better after all these years. Let's change the subject a little bit. David, I'm curious, how do you listen to music these days? Is it streaming or maybe, the more, like CDs, vinyls, stuff like that? Maybe you have some special rituals of listening to music. How does it look in your case?
I always listen to it quite honestly, on this very iPhone I'm talking to you on. It has my entire music catalog on it. And it's because I fly and I travel, right? So I buy most of it. So it's in the phone, in my cloud, so I have it because I'm not always on Wi-Fi, so and I want to listen to music. I want to have it, right? So I pay for it. I buy my own albums. When Dieth pre-order went up, I pre-ordered it, right? So I buy my own albums. I buy my friends' albums. When an Iron Maiden or a Judas Priest or a Ghost album's coming out, I always buy it, right? Because I support them and as my friends, and I'm a fan of their music. So, and it's important to stay a fan, I think, too, to be excited about, oh man, the new album's here. Let me listen to it. Yeah. Now, I will say this. I at home, I have a vinyl player. It's not a great one, it's just a small little thing that I have. But I was glad to move away from vinyl because I learned how to play bass to vinyl. You know, like the needle would be there and then you'd have to pick it up and move it back and listen to it and then pick it up. You know, that's how I learned how to play bass. So I was glad to move past it. And I love the convenience of digital. But I will say this. I love vinyl album covers, right? I bought so many albums, AC/DC, Van Halen, the Sex Pistols, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. I bought so many records. I became a fan of these bands from their album covers. Yeah, right. So I will buy. I'll buy it on iTunes, right? And I'm an iTunes. I'm an Apple guy, right? Because Apple, by the way, also pays us the best as royalties. Okay. So I'd rather give Apple my money. I love Steve Jobs. I think he settled the Napster dispute by creating the iTunes store, even if it was just so he could sell iPods, whatever. You know, I think he fixed it, right? So I hail him. So like I bought Bachman Turner Overdrive, Not Fragile, right? I have it in here. That's one of the first albums that got me into rock and roll, right? But then I went on Amazon and I bought the album cover because I wanted to have the vinyl album cover, and I found it was like $10. I had it shipped to my house. So now I have the album cover so I can look at the album and listen to it on my phone the same way I used to as a kid, sitting in front of my stereo, looking at the pictures, reading. Because to me, that's such a part of this. And that's why I think as metal artists, we go to such great lengths to make these elaborate album covers with these gatefolds and these digipacks and all this stuff, because we put the lyrics, who played what solo, who wrote what song. Because we know as fans ourselves that fans want to see this stuff. You know, they want to. Like, this isn't just a song that's passing us by. This is, we are all into a culture, you know, you know, our bands become our bands, our t-shirt, that's who we are. Right. So, we go to great lengths to do that. And that's why just even still as a fan, if I buy a Kiss album, I bought a 38 special album and I bought the album cover. I found it at a record store, right? Because I want to take it home and remember the experience I had when I was a teenager listening to my favorite records on my stereo at home when I was growing up.
Yeah, the album cover is important thing for me too. So I understand it's a kind of fan thing. Okay, so for the end, let's do some this or that quick answers. Okay. And the first one is tour life or studio life?
Tour life.
Festivals or headline shows?
Festivals.
Megadeth 80s era or 90s era?
90s era.
Rust in Peace or Euthanasia?
Euthanasia.
Iron Maiden or Metallica?
Oh, that's not even fair. Iron Metallica.
Okay.
I'll have to take Iron Maiden just because they were first, but that's an unfair question. Shame on you.
Slipknot or Ghost?
Ghost.
Bring Me the Horizon or Asking Alexandria?
Asking Alexandria.
Metal ballads or metal heavy bangers?
I mean, look, we got into it because of the head banging stuff. So I think I got to go with the bangers.
All right. Thank you so much, David, for a great conversation. All the best for you and for Dieth, you know, building your career, playing shows, and the first album. All the best for you, man. Thank you once again.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, man. Bye.
Bye.